Hello friends, we are taking the concluding chapter on organization behavior, which is titled as conflict management. The moment I say conflict, what comes to your mind? Quarrels, fights, difference of opinion. Nobody likes conflict, isn't it? Are we talking about eradicating conflict, completely removing conflict? Are we talking about conflicts that need to be avoided? Let's explore. Conflict, as the simplest definition, is a clash of interests when one or more parties want the same thing. Conflict arises because somebody wants something and the other person also wants it. Two people or two entities, they want the same thing, maybe totally or partially, and the other person is not willing to give in. Most of us in the social context like to avoid conflict. There are a lot of people who like to avoid conflict even in organizations. Conflicts are not very pleasant. People like to end conflicts. Best is to avoid conflicts. But there's a flip side to it, which is what we'll be discussing here. Are conflicts avoidable? The answer is no. Conflicts will keep coming again and again and again in life. Conflicts cannot be solved. They can't be solved. Once for all, you can't say that I'm going to end the conflict with XYZ. It's not possible. Because conflicts keep coming again and again when situations keep changing. We react to situations or we respond to situations. And when there are people around, we respond to their own views. So conflicts are a part of life. Conflicts cannot be solved. They can only be resolved. Because conflicts will keep coming and we have to keep on solving them again and again and again and again. It becomes a skill. When you do something repeatedly, it becomes a skill. And when it becomes a skill, you are in a position to handle conflicts much more effectively. The most affected person in a conflict is you. You're calling it a conflict because it is affecting you, right? So that affected part of you will become less affected for a less period of time when you practice conflict resolution skills. Many people avoid or shun or run away from conflict. Thereby, they do not expose themselves to learning the skills of conflict management. If you are willing to expose yourself to the skills development of conflict management, you will find that within you, fear is reduced. Within you, you will have the courage of approaching conflict situations and handle them effectively. And you will actually experience a sense of joy in living. A lot of people I come across are living in fear because of fear of conflict. Some of you listening to me may be in that category. A lot of people don't want to express themselves in an organization or at home because of conflict, fear of conflict. Now this fear creates a lot of issues for you. So when there's a conflict, my invitation to all of you is to express it, be done with it, express your views, have things going ahead. Again, further conflict will come, you cannot avoid it. If you think that life is going to be a bed of roses, forget it. Life is a bed of roses and thorns also keep coming. How to pick the thorns and throw them away is the art of managing conflicts. So conflict management is a very exciting journey. It shows that you're alive to the situation. I repeat, when I am validating a conflict, when I am into conflict management, I am accepting the conflict is there. At the same time, I'm living in the moment. People who run away from the conflict are not living in the moment. Think about what I'm saying, because this is a fact. When is the conflict taking place? It is taking place now. There is some issue. Two of us are having difference of opinion. And there is something that needs to be solved. Many times we give cosmetics on the top of it. We just give some little bit of, cut and paste type of a thing. We don't actually go to the root of it. That's where the trouble comes. A lot of people act as if they are friends. A lot of people show behavior which is very nice, pleasant. But when we go deeper, we realize there is deep-rooted conflicts. Conflicts are not always seen in the form of a behavior. Two people will be talking very sweet with each other for ages, and we may get an impression as if there is no conflict. There may be a conflict. Conversely, two people will be shouting and talking. We all think that when somebody shouts, it's a conflict. It need not be. We have got lots of conditioning, social conditioning, etiquettes, manners. They teach us that this is proper behavior, this is improper behavior. Conflicts are not usually expressed in the form of a behavior. Shouting need not be a conflict. Swearing at each other need not be a conflict. Talking unpleasant things need not be a conflict. Expressing one's opinion and prejudice need not be a conflict. What may be conflict is something which doesn't appear to be a conflict in behavior. I want all of us to sensitize ourselves and ponder in that direction. Conflict, as a simplest definition, is a clash of interest when one or more parties want the same thing. Certain personality traits attract conflict. There are two types of people, type A and type B. Aggressive behavior and supportive behavior. Now, there are certain people who choose to create conflicts. There is a reason behind that. They say nations are at conflict with each other because individuals are at conflict unto themselves. When I am having a conflict within me, I become a seed, a starting point of conflict with the whole world. When I do not resolve my inner conflict, intra-personal conflict we call it. There's a INTRA, intra-personal conflict. When it is there in me, first and foremost I need to recognize it is there. Second, I must learn to resolve my intrapersonal conflict. It's my job. Nobody else can do it for me. People may give me guidance, but I have to take a stance and act upon it. When I do that, then I am in a position to see that interpersonal conflicts don't take place between you and me. Now, most of the times, conflicts are happening all around because people are unto conflicts with themselves. When I am in conflict with myself, I want to run away from a conflict which is outside. Because I have a disturbance and I don't want more disturbance. This is what is human nature. Most of us do that. The moment you sit down and understand these are my intrapersonal conflicts, I want to resolve them, and you actually resolve by taking action steps, then you realize that you are able to see conflicts which are happening from others to you. If I am in a position to understand my intrapersonal conflict, when you come to me with a major difference of opinion, I can understand that within you there is an intrapersonal conflict. I am not saying that all conflicts have an intrapersonal base, but intrapersonal conflicts, when they are not resolved, they create interpersonal conflicts. And the thing expands up to the very, very macro level. We'll explore that later. All conflicts, as I said, personality traits, there are type A and type B. Type A people are aggressive people and they tend to create conflict situations. Type B try to be very passive and they try to absorb conflict. They become victims. Whereas type A becomes usually aggressors, the ones who attack. I'm not giving any negative connotation to both the types. Type A, by its very nature, could shake off people who are not wanting to be like type A. That can create a conflict. All conflicts are not bad. Some are healthy, conducive for organization growth. When you're doing a problem solving, we need a number of different ideas coming up. I need a point of view A, I need a point of view B, I need a point of view C, D, E, and E. When all the points of view are coming, they need not be the same. So there is a tendency for a conflict to take place. Now this is what is called as a functional conflict or a healthy conflict. That's important. Organizational issues can't be solved unless and until there are conflicts. So conflicts are not bad, they're okay, they're good. There's another conflict called dysfunctional conflict. That is dangerous. Dysfunctional conflicts is happening because of two people having differing values. These conflicts we are talking about, which are not bad, are the conflicts that are coming because of differing perceptions, differing attitudes, differing behaviors. But the values are remaining constant. If you go back to the iceberg model of behavior, right? So, next point is conflict cannot be eliminated but can be managed through conflict resolution methods. Organizations adopting a constructive approach towards conflicts derive benefits from conflicts. There are organizations and there are bosses, there are top management people who actually create what are called as competitive conflicts. Within the organization, they create competitive conflicts, which has a lot to do with each department and each division competing with the other. Thereby, there is a clash because of the resource issue. What is management? Optimum utilization of available resources. Resources are usually not available in abundance even in the well-managed companies. At any given point of time, there is a resource imbalance. Now, when the resource allocation is done through budgeting between Department A and Department B, there is bound to be certain type of a healthy tug of war and a conflict. So, each department has to prove that they can do their job with the lesser resources than before. So, in that there is a lot of push and pull. When the resources are not as per your expectations, there is bound to be an irritation within you. And that irritation can create a righteousness when you're dealing with another department. Now these two departments can lock their horns and they may get into a conflict. But this conflict is not coming because they hate each other, it is because of the pressures of the resources. Now managements are known to create these type of pressures deliberately sometimes to ensure that people are optimally utilizing the resources and becoming better managers and better leaders. Conflicts cannot be eliminated. Last point I've already explained. Let's go to the next slide. The origins of conflict. Conflicts, there are a number of reasons why conflicts take place. Some of them are listed on the slide. First is difference in interest between A and B. Type of work efforts. Somebody puts in more effort, the other person doesn't put that much effort. The person who puts more effort, he feels that he is not being paid properly, and the person B feels the other way around. So types of efforts can also create a conflict. Personal approaches towards work, life, etc. The attitude towards one's work, towards life, that can create a conflict. In the chapter on attitudes, we explained a lot about how important it is for us to maintain our attitudes in the direction of our goals. Okay, timing of certain events. I don't expect something to happen and suddenly it happens. There's an accident in the factory, or there is some problem at home with the son or daughter. Now that suddenly comes as there could be a conflict that could happen. When your comfort zone is suddenly shaken with a certain event, it could happen. A conflict could take place. Okay, the event could be timed it's ill-timed as you call it. Attitudes of people. Some people are having some attitudes, like I said, type A types maybe, or even type B for that matter. Somebody who's not with the situation to solve a certain common problem or attain a certain goal. Such people can also create conflicts. There is a long list you can add to this. A few are given on the screen. Modern management views conflict positively and has a constructive view towards it. Organizations and even very good managers and even very good human beings, people who want to be alive to the situation, look at conflict from a very positive angle. Some of the positive views are that conflicts create analytical thinking, challenging views, opinions, rules, etc. You do a brainstorming. In a brainstorming, what do? A lot of people are sitting and everybody is allowed to ventilate his opinions and wishes about whatever they think about the project or whatever is being discussed. Now when they do that, we get different types of thinking process coming in. Divergent thinking and convergent thinking, we call it. Number of people are divergent in their thinking process. All the divergent thinking comes to a certain common problem solving which becomes convergent. To solve a problem, I need to go through analytical thinking, and hence we need to have some amount of debate and heated argument. Group cohesiveness arising out of free communication during conflicts and after. Many of you listening to me, especially younger people I'm talking about, in today's world, they avoid conflicts. And they show that everything is going on well, and they try to make things a little hunky-dory, right? I'm not talking about friends who are very close to each other. Friends who are very close to each other are the informal people. Among informal people, the conflicts that happen every day, among informal people, the conflicts that happen every day are the ones that is acceptable as a difference of opinion and they don't have any issues. But when you're in a formal group, you notice that people don't express themselves because of fear of conflict, fear of some sort of reprimanding, fear of somebody saying something wrong to you. Now everybody is into politically correct expressions, formal expressions, and Because of that, the group is having its own inner groupism. This is common in every organization. Let us say a group of say 50 people are working on a project. All the 50, if they need to be have a group cohesiveness, group togetherness, group bonding, then there has to be some means by which everybody is expressive about themselves. When this expression doesn't happen, things don't remain as they are. There comes a critical stage on a day on which there is bound to be some let up of all the steam. Everything will come out. After that steam lets up, suddenly we realize we speak our mind. When we speak our mind, suddenly everybody comes together. If you have seen the film Chak De India, the girls, they are all having their own groups inside. Once they go to the McDonald's restaurant to have their food, that's the time they have a fight with the boys. And suddenly, after that fight takes place, everybody comes together. Group cohesiveness takes place after conflict. Of course, that conflict was initiated by an outsider, but inside we should create an atmosphere wherein people are expressing themselves freely. One should not feel threatened when somebody's expression is against what one thinks. This is one very important training we need to go through. Life training, I call it. In life training, we must learn to be there in that position where somebody is talking something totally different from what I want to hear. Bosses need to practice this. Leaders need to practice this. At home, we need to practice this. Youngsters need to practice this to realize that there is other point of view also besides what you think is correct. Why I am saying youngsters is nothing against them. The point is, today they are very selective in what they do. And when you're not open, because of the type of choices you have, really you find yourself excluding yourself from the rest of the crowd. And when you exclude yourself from the rest of the crowd, you're not in touch in social contact. And that social contact can create lack of group cohesiveness in spite of being together. Competitiveness arising out of conflict due to denial. A, B, C, D, 4 of them are competing with each other on something. And there is a competition for A to achieve, B also to achieve, C also to achieve, and D. When this achievement comes, A doesn't win this time. All the more reason why A will create his own energy to make it happen next time. So it increases competitiveness. Organization development, creative and innovative processes gets unleashed. Organization development is a very long process. It's a macro process. It takes place over a period of time. There are 2 dimensions to it. One is it addresses ongoing change. Second thing is it addresses the imperative for people to change their existing behaviors into new behaviors. So a lot of initiatives are taken to ensure that a critical mass of people in an organization go through a change. And this change is required to address the external changes that will happen in the future. Now during this time, there is bound to be a lot of churning of people's thoughts, opinions, etc. During that time, conflicts are bound to happen. So conflicts during a change process in an organization helps you to go to the next level of evolution of the organization. It reduces tensions and increases effectiveness. The moment I say something with you and you and I are working together, I think we are clear about each other. There is nothing left inside. The trouble starts when people are not expressing their differences. And it is very strange to note that everybody has got differences, yet they don't express. When you ask them, they give answers, everything is okay. They show as if life is so pleasant. It's a very dangerous scenario according to me. Because if somebody keeps telling me that everything is okay all the time, something is majorly wrong in his communication, or he is not in touch with reality, or both. Because you can't be pleasant all the time. You can't be happy and liking all the time in every scenario. Formal settings, it is understandable. But informal settings also very, very pleasant, very quiet all the time, saying that everything is okay unless you have attained a state of nirvana. Okay, that's very rare. Types of conflict situation. 5 different types of conflict situations have been given here. It starts with the individual within himself, intra-personal conflict, which I already explained. When the intrapersonal conflict is not resolved by me, within me, then I tend to get into interpersonal conflict between me and you, between 2 people. Then comes conflicts due to goals and objectives. When I do not know my goal properly, when I do not know the objectives, when I do not even know the role properly. This happens in some organization cultures. You are taken as a sales executive. You will end up doing everything, dispatch, everything you started doing. And then you wonder, where am I? Now that can create a major identity crisis, which can create a lot of intrapersonal conflict as well as conflicts with others. Intergroup conflict between two groups like management and labor. Conflict between two groups. Inter-organizational conflict between two organizations among competitors. So it starts from the micro, it goes to the macro. We can extend it further to intra-industry, intra-industry, okay, intra-economy, and within the country, the whole country is under conflict with each other. Imagine. Okay. What are the causes of conflict? There are two. Behavioral, which is individual to the person, and structural, which is about the organization. The behavioral conflict can be because of misunderstandings, perceptions, and personality issues between two or more people. Structural may be the way the whole company has structured the various roles, the goals, the organization structure, the various positions, etc. So the conflict could be because of me as a person, or it could be because of the me into the organization structure. If I'm in this organization, I may be prone to conflict. When I leave this organization into another, I may not be prone to conflict. Organization is a focus. On the other hand, it could be me as a person who's having a behavioral issue with me. So regardless of whichever organization I go, I am into conflict. It's a problem with me, not with the organization. The worst scenario is problem with me and problem with the organization also. That dangerous thing wherein none of us will survive. Ideal, my behavioral issues are taken care of. I'm resolving my conflict from time to time. I've got the skills. And I also join an organization which has also got the skills. So there also the structural aspect is supporting me. Okay. So you can draw actually 4 quadrants. In one quadrant, structurally okay. The other one structurally not okay. Second one, behaviorally okay and behaviorally not okay. Behavior is about individual, structure is about organization. So ideal scenario is structural okay, behavioral okay. The most difficult, challenging scenario will be structurally not okay and ideally behaviorally not okay. And then there are the others who fall into these other 2 quadrants. Structurally okay but behaviorally not okay, or structurally not okay and behaviorally okay. It's not given in the book, I'm just giving you this additional input. Okay. So there are 5 primary strategies in dealing with behavioral conflict. We go slowly one by one. First, when a conflict comes, what happens to human beings? Their comfort zones are shaken. When my comfort zone is shaken and yours is shaken, we get a certain type of a stress or a tension. At the first time when it happens, the tendency is to ignore or avoid the conflict. It's a very passive role. I don't even want to see that there's a conflict. Most people do this. Next, if at all it comes, then I say, chalo, let's do something about it. Let's appeal for unity and peace. Let's shake hands. I'm sorry, you say I'm sorry, I'm saying I'm sorry, and both of us come back together. We smoothen, we iron out the differences. If even this doesn't work, then we go for a compromise. Okay, how much do you want? You want this? Okay, take it. No, I want this much. Okay, I also want this much. Then there is a negotiator who comes in, does the compromising. Right? If that doesn't happen, then finally we come into domination. Nothing doing. My way or the highway. Nothing doing. My way or the highway. Domination. Most of the conflict resolution comes under this category. Because when this does not work and it comes to this, is it dangerous? But the last one we're talking about is what is called as collaboration or the problem solving positive confrontation with situation orientation. Both of us are having right thinking. Both of us are working for the common goal. Both of us want the conflict. We recognize that there are conflicts. Both of us understand that conflicts are a part of life. Now all this maturity we need, this comes through EQ, emotional quotient, emotional intelligence, EI. When that happens, both of us sit together, we'll say, okay, let's see what best we can do. And then we work towards solution rather than solving differences. And when we are into that, we'll find that, this conflicts will lead us into collaboration. It is a law of synergy. 1 + 1 = greater than 2. Okay? Jack Gibbs talks about certain behaviors which are good for managing conflicts and certain other behaviors which are not good for managing conflicts, which I've already mentioned earlier. There are some behaviors which are aggressive, which should be avoided, and some behaviors which are supportive that have to be nurtured. I think a table of this is given in your book. You can go through it. Now, aggressive versus supportive behavior, there's a list of 6 points given here, comparison points. Aggressive behavior usually does evaluative. An evaluative person or a judgmental person is an aggressive person. And when I'm judgmental about you, about the food that you eat, about the way you work, about the dress that you wear, I am actually attracting conflict. Whereas descriptive resolves conflict. Descriptive means what? Fine. Descriptive means we are talking about somebody who's not getting judgmental, but they are in a position to understand and take the full picture in a descriptive manner. Such people let go and they don't get personal with the other individual. Aggressive people have a controlling force. They want to control, they want to take charge of situations and people. They want to have everything in their hands, so they may create conflict. Whereas supportive behavior is usually problem oriented. They want to solve problems, so the conflict they reduce. Aggressive people are strategy driven, they are goal driven, they want to reach the goal, sometimes at any cost, so they create a conflict. Whereas these people are spontaneous or situational. We have to reach the goal, but how do we reach the goal? Let us include people. That sort of a thing, supportive behavior nurtures. Aggressive behavior is neutral. Neutral means it says work matters, people don't matter, so they don't give importance to people. And thereby they may trample on people. This aggressive types. Empathy, this person is empathetic, putting himself in the shoes of the other person. Superiority versus equality. Aggressive always tries to show superiority. He doesn't mean it, but it just happens by the way he disposes himself. Whereas this person shows a more of democratic, participative, equality type of a behavior. And aggressive is very dogmatic, like I said, my way or the highway. Whereas a supportive behavior is little open-minded. Some 5 points are given by this author Jack Gibbs. Now we go to the next slide, which is talking about negotiation. Whenever a conflict takes place, there is always a give and take. Now, if two of us are having conflict A and B, then for us to actually arrive at something which is workable, the ideal situation is collaboration. For us to come at something workable, we need to have a third party coming and doing what is called as an intervention. Not interference, intervention. The third party sits. The third party doesn't know me, he doesn't know you. He sits and he starts seeing the issues separately and also together. He talks to me separately, he talks to you separately, he talks to both of us together. And he goes through a typical issue-based type of a structural form of negotiation. And in that negotiation, there are certain steps which he follows, thereby ensuring that the negotiation goes on in a manner in which there is a win-win situation ensuing. It's a system in which two or more parties exchange what they have in return for what they need. Collective bargaining between management and labor union is an example of negotiation. Collective bargaining, or what we call it as a unionism, a union comes together, they collectively bargain. So that's an example of a negotiation. It is seen to be more effective than other forms of conflict resolution. Why? Because there is a third party, he is a neutral person, he has nothing to give or take, he's got no personal interest, he's been called in as an intervention person or a adjudicator or whatever name you want to give him, and he just gives his point of view and he tries to come to a common ground where both of you all are living happily. Now there are two types of bargaining that happens in a negotiation. One is what we call as distributive bargaining. In a distributive bargaining, what is done is we have two limits that is set by the parties. A target limit, target point and a resistance point. This is set by the person who's making a demand. If I am the union, I'm making a demand, I'll set what is called the target point and a resistance point. For example, let's say I'm fighting for bonus. I will say that I would like to have a target point of 25,000. Ideal is 25,000 bonus per person. And I know, heart of hearts, that the management will not give me 25,000. So I will say that I'll come down to a minimum of only 20,000. So I'll set my target point of 25 and resistance point of 20,000. So when I go for the negotiation, Now here it is mentioned the target point is what the party hopes to achieve as the ideal goal, 25,000, and the resistance point is what the party expects at the lowest acceptable outcome. If the talks come to that level of compromise, I would not want to feel defeated. I would still want to feel that I am victorious. And so I will set a limit which is 20. In reality, I am expecting only 20, but I raise my stakes to 25 or maybe 30 so that even if I negotiate from the starting point top, I come down to 20. But this thinking is on both sides for your information. So just as I think I am demanding for 25, the management will say that I would like to give you only 15. So that's where the whole, the tug of war starts, right? So what are we doing in this? The approach in which a fixed amount of resources are equally distributed to all negotiating parties is termed as distributive bargaining. So this 25 and 20, we have the discussion, and finally the negotiator finally says that, okay, fine, I think you can give 22,500 to everybody, one lump sum amount. It's midway between 25 and 20. And so 22,500 rupees would be the fixed amount of resources that is being disbursed. This is called as distributive bargaining. Everybody gets the same amount. And what is the assumption in this type of a bargaining? That there is only one solution to the issue. That is money, and that too based on upper limit and lower limit, which is a point of discussion. The resistance point, so this type of negotiation ensures equitable distribution and thus addresses post-negotiation discontent among parties. Why discontent? Because there will be people who say that I think I deserve more than 22,500. There will be some people who will say, fine, I am more than happy. Now, money, whenever you do a distributive bargaining, let's not talk about money alone. When I'm doing a distributive bargaining, I'm taking one single approach towards problem solving. So when I take one single approach towards problem solving, I'm assuming that there is only one problem or a set of problems. Whereas when it comes to discontent among people, each one is having different types of issues. Do I analyze it? Do I take cognizance of that fact? Do I really do something wherein I am able to give bargaining in such a way that everybody is more or less satisfied, not a favored few? When I say favored few means I'm not favoring them, but by default it happens. In any problem solving, if I assume that there is only one solution or two solutions towards a problem, in these scenarios, I'll usually land up displeasing a group of people, which can backfire on the harmony and the effectiveness of the management. Okay? So taking it further, we have one more type of bargaining which is called as integrative bargaining. What am I doing in an integrative bargaining? It's an approach adopted on the assumption that there exists more than one solution to a conflict which could result in a win-win situation. Some people would like to have 5-day week. Some other people would like to have more bonus. A third group of people may want to have something else. Now we sit down and we look at commonalities in every area. We'll try to see if something can be done so that everybody gets at least a part of what they're looking for. Right? It is a better form of bargaining than distributive bargaining since it eliminates differences and develops long-term relationships. Obviously. Conflict resolution techniques are explained here, and conflicts cannot be eliminated, they can only be managed and resolved. Some of the conflict resolution techniques are problem solving, setting superordinate goals. Superordinate goals means when you and I are having a conflict every day, both of us are given a goal which is so exciting for both of us, so that what we do is we forget our differences and we work towards a goal. Indian cricket team some years back, within that team there was a lot of conflicts. But the conflicts got resolved when we had the World Cup and also when we were playing Pakistan. So that becomes a superordinate goal. They say, now my enemy and your enemy are same, and so when my enemy and your enemy are same, we will forget the enmity between us. So when the goal is superordinate, larger than life-like, this is what happens. Expansion of resources. So one of the reasons of conflict is when the resources are less. So when I give more resources, the conflict is supposed to be resolved. I need more table space. I need more time for logging into the computer. Various could be the resources that I'm looking for. So when I get those, there's a likelihood of the conflict being taken care of. Avoidance, at a very, very elementary stage, the conflict could be perceptual. It may be the mind, then avoidance works. Otherwise, avoidance is very dangerous. Okay? Smoothing, compromising, authoritative command, etc. These are some means of resolving conflicts. In organizations, by their policies, by the way they work, they actually create stimulation. Through stimulation, they create conflicts within groups of people. It is not a evil act. It is being done because they want a type of a churning of energy. Nothing moves ahead unless and until there's a demand made on you. When I make a demand on you and you make a demand on me, then both of us are coming out of our comfort zone. When we come out of our comfort zone, there is bound to be some sort of a churning, some sort of a uneasiness. My uneasiness and your uneasiness put together, we are working under the same roof, under the same company, will bring about a certain type of a surge of going forward so that we go and establish new comfort zones. It is on that basis this is done. Although it may appear that all conflicts need to be resolved, there are situations where conflicts are stimulated as a strategy for effectiveness. Some of these stimulation techniques are communication, inducting outsiders, restructuring organizations, etc. A typical stimulation technique is seen between two functional verticals, marketing and operations. Operations is given certain budget, marketing is given certain budget. Operations are given certain resources and marketing is given certain resources. Now both of them start stretching at the resources, and during that time there's a lot of push-pull and conflicts take place. When these conflicts occur, it's a healthy conflict, the best in them comes out. They don't realize it while it is going on. Don't you agree that many of you listening to me would have actually experienced this at your workplace? The best growth took place in your life when you had conflicts. I'm talking about corporate conflicts within the organization, interdepartmental conflicts. The people have got nothing against each other. It is a situation that makes the thing happen. If you develop this maturity, then you'll enjoy conflicts. It sounds very strange when I say enjoy, no? Enjoy means you're not inviting conflict. When conflicts come, you say, wow, there's a scope for me to improve. There's a scope for me to stretch myself and see how I can be better. Right? We need to recognize those actions and situations in which conflicts are prone to occur and address them using the appropriate resolution techniques. Just 5 points from the book. I've just given the 5 points. These are basic common sense steps towards negotiation process. A negotiation starts with preparation and planning. I have to prepare what needs to be negotiated, the focus of negotiation. Is it the bonus? Is it working conditions? Is it the leave, which is a very major issue that's going on perhaps? I have to prepare and I have to plan the ground rules. When, where, how, who should come and represent. All the planning is done on a time-bound basis. After the planning, the ground rule follows next. When we are having a negotiation, these are the types of behavior we need to display. Proper behavior. No shouting, screaming, no pulling at each other's collar. There should be civil behavior. We must allow each other to speak and listen to them. These ground rules are set. Then the negotiation starts. So both the parties keep talking to each other and giving their point of view. So we have to clarify when we do not understand it, and we have to also justify when we think that we are right on either side. The negotiator is sitting third party. Okay? Then we bargain and do the problem solving. The actual thing comes. After having heard both the sides, clarification and justification, you have to sit down and then you start offer solutions. And this is the toughest part of it, because during this time, tempers can get raised and there can be a lot of conflict that could happen there. So the role of the negotiator is to ensure that this is done in with a lot of finesse. He needs to do it. And then finally we close and implement. We agree that this is what we are concluding with, this is what we need to do, and then finally we put it into implementation. This is so beautifully prepared and so well kept, but this is not the way it actually happens in many organizations, because somewhere along the line we find that some rule gets broken. Now that is to be properly addressed by top management and also the people who are asking for these bargaining things, right? So friends, we conclude this with a summary as usual. Conflicts are unavoidable but can be managed. All conflicts are not dysfunctional. Some are required for existence, survival and growth. Intrapersonal conflicts, interpersonal conflicts, intergroup conflicts were studied. Conflict resolution methods were also studied. Negotiation and its significance in conflict resolution was also studied. Thank you very much. Good luck.